Hi, everybody. This is Angel Arts, and welcome to session 0 of the upcoming Wizarding World of Harry Potter tabletop campaign that I'll be hosting on my channel. This is campaign number 6, I think. Campaign number 6 on my channel. I've done other sessions for those of you who are just joining us. I've done other campaigns on my channel in the past. 2 Dragon Age campaigns, 2 Mass Effect campaigns, and a Pokemon tabletop campaign, believe it or not. And I'm looking forward to the beginning of this one. And I have, well, you can't really see them, but I have the 4 players. These are people who actually, these are people who actually auditioned for this campaign. For those of you who are curious at how that whole process occurred, because that's always fun too. Maybe not as much fun for the participants, but there'll be a link.
We were dying.
I'm gonna put a link somewhere near the top, so if you wanna watch all of everybody's auditions and interviews, I think that would be really interesting for you guys to do. Otherwise, definitely welcome. For those of you who don't know what a session 0 is, I like to do session 0s because it gives us a chance to get to know each other. It gets a chance for us to start getting into our characters and figuring out our characters and just working out our dynamics. In addition, and this isn't typical of many of my session 0s, we are going to be doing a good bit of role playing today that actually will be canon in the story. If you want to get the full experience, I would not skip this session. I would not skip session 0 because I think if you start with session 1, you're not going to be totally lost, but there definitely will be a lot of foundation laid out, not only foundation of the characters, but also of the world that we are building. So highly recommend that you stick around for that. So the first thing that we're going to do is, I am very curious because I have no idea why everybody is not showing themselves on camera. So whatever it is you guys are wanting to do, go ahead and do whatever it is.
Oh yeah, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
2, 1. Let's go.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
How's it going, everyone? It's me, Chris Hemsworth.
Wonderful.
Please check out my new movie, Endgame.
Jordan, you're supposed to dye your hair red.
I love it.
I was going for authentic cosplay. Thank you very much.
I love it.
So I like stapled this to my forehead. How do I take it out?
Oh God, no. Brandon.
Oh, no.
By the way, this session 0 is mainly going to be me in the bottom corner cleaning this mascara off my face.
Do we do our real face reveals now, or?
I mean,
yes, you can do your face. I should probably explain to the viewers who might not be in the know what this is mean. So, it is relatively well known by many of my viewers that I have a undying love for one Chris Evans, or a lot of the Chris's in general. Chris Pratt, Chris Evans, Chris Pine, et cetera. So I think there were a lot of mentions in the Discord chat about how, during auditions especially, I was like, if you guys show up for your interview, with dressed up as Chris Evans or any of the Chris's, that would give you buco points. So I think that's what this is in reference.
That's how we all got in.
That's
how
they all got in. That's actually the real reason.
So now I'm going to go grab a bottle of rubbing alcohol so I can have my true face revealed.
You should just leave it like that. It looks much better.
Yes, Jordan's super cute. As of this recording, it is the opening weekend of The Avengers. I'm sure that Brandon is sick and tired of that. Brandon works in a movie theater, so
I'm so done with this movie. I'm so done with it. It's only been 2 days, and I'm
It's
done.
really good, Brandon. You have to admit that.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
I'm excited. I'm watching it tonight, so that's my second highlight. Obviously, this is my biggest highlight of the day. Obviously.
You won't think that once you watch the movie.
Oh, okay. Let's jump in and start with introducing everybody. So, whoever wants to go first, really all I need from you is how would you want us to refer to you as? Where are you from? And actually, I should ask this question too because it may be applicable. What is your preferred pronoun? He, she, they. I think that's applicable. And then finally, if you, the player, were to be sorted, we've talked about this, so this should be easy. If you, the player, were to be sorted in one of the Hogwarts houses, which one do you, as the player, think you would have been sorted into? And then answer that same question for your character.
Not Slytherin.
Definitely Slytherin.
Well, because of that, I'm going to start. And my username is Mr. Clef. You guys all can call me Clef. I'm from Mexico. You can call me he. And if I, the player, were sorted into a Hogwarts house, I would be a Slytherin, 100% Slytherin. And my character, Juan Diego, he would be a Hufflepuff. Yep, no doubt about that either. Slytherin for me, actually, I grew up seeing the movie, so I was like, yeah, I want to be Gryffindor. Yay, they're the good guys. They're the ones that matter. But after I did the test a couple times, I started seeing that no, actually, this Slytherin is pretty cool, and you guys should all love Slytherin. And Merlin was a Slytherin, guys. That's all you need to know. I fucking love Slytherin. And for
I like to just think Voldemort was Slytherin. That's the one I go with, not Merlin.
No, you have to go with the good examples. You have to go with the good examples. And as for Juan Diego, he's just this little ball that loves to love and to protect people. So there's no other place for him to be than Hufflepuff.
My name is Jordan. I'm from Philadelphia. No, I'm from Australia. And from those of us who are on the Discord, and maybe some of you guys might have seen art on the internet 5 years ago, but I like to draw. I'm very creative. And because of that, I think I would definitely be Ravenclaw. I'm a very academic person. And as for Roxana, I thought she was Gryffindor. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized she's actually Slytherin. and that's just because when it comes to her and her making her decisions, she's like, okay, well, I can see there's a clear solution to this problem, and I'm going to do that because that's what I believe in, and I'm going to keep doing that no matter what anyone else says. So I think that's a pretty Slytherin trait. Brendan and those in the RP chat know all about that. The rest of you, I guess that is something you can only guesstimate at. That is a story for another day.
Slytherin rules, baby.
My name is AJ. I go by the he, him pronouns as well. I am from southern Delaware, teeny tiny little state on the east coast of the United States. I personally am a Ravenclaw. I'm just very, I guess, academically oriented. These guys can tell you I'm the one that have notes everywhere and creating character sheets for everyone and very organized
spreadsheets and things
that. If it wasn't for AJ, we wouldn't have character sheets.
So I definitely fit the Ravenclaw build with slight Slytherin tendencies. I'm very ambitious as well. As for Albion, I think if I had to pick just one, I'd go first with Hufflepuff. I think it's his social kind of friendliness that shines most. He definitely has that strength in the terms of herbology, like that wit in that area, but it's very centralized to that. So I don't think he embodies a Ravenclaw entirely, but has little bits of it as well. But I think Hufflepuff mainly for that reason.
My name is either I could go by Big Daddy from Cincinnati, or you could call me Brendan. Those are the two I could go with.
I'm not
I go by.
That.
You can pick which one you want, but yeah, I go by him.
You tell us.
him. I also live in a small little city called Las Vegas, Nevada. You may have heard of it. Me and Levi would both be Gryffindor. We're like loyal. We're like the best dudes. So all the best dudes go
Absolutely
to
not.
Gryffindor.
Gryffindor is overrated.
No, it's rated exactly where it should be.
Them's be fighting words, Cliff.
I guess I can answer that question. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my YouTube channel is Angel Arts, but everybody calls me Hark. And I am from the Washington, D.C. area. And as far, I go by he, him pronouns. And as far as the house, so if I were only to choose one of the houses, I believe I'm a Ravenclaw. At least that's what it says on Pottermore. But I also identify with Hufflepuff greatly as well. So I've always kind of called myself a Ravenpuff for the most part. I am also, though, a huge Slytherin sympathizer. So I'm a very, I feel like Slytherins get the short end of the stick unfairly, and that's just my opinion. I think they get the short end of the stick unfairly, and so Colin and we've had a very big argument back and forth about Slytherin, and I just love it. So that is me. Cool. Let us move on to some icebreaker questions, just so that we can get to know each other, and so the viewers who are watching can get to know you guys as people too. So my first icebreaker question is, if you, the player, had the ability to cast any Harry Potter spell or be able to do something magical in the Harry Potter universe. For example, this isn't actually a spell, but if you had the ability to use the Flu Network, or if you had the ability to, drive a flying car, that's not a spell per se, but it's like a magical ability. If you could cast a spell or have some sort of magical Wizarding World ability, what would you want to have in real life, and why?
For me, that's pretty easy. I think I would want to have the ability to fly on brooms. I think that's super cool. I just think the idea of like flying whenever you want at will would be like really fun. So if I could pick anything, it would just be that I could fly on a broom.
And you prefer that over a car?
100%.
1%.
Carry around.
Yeah. I can't really carry my car.
Also, it's more eco-friendly.
Yeah. Gas prices wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Not a lot of traffic up there, I'm sure. So
one of the things that I've decided that's more going to be a thing in Act 2 is there's going to be broom shares, or like, you know how yeah, there's like bikes you can sort of like rent and like go around. I feel like they probably should do the same thing with brooms. Like later on.
Like you can have
shares
really cool. And Nimbus or Fireball.
Yes. Yes.
Well, we're trying to save trees, but then again, we're killing trees to make the broom. So it's interesting.
I would like the killing cut. No.
That's our Slytherin.
I'm a closeted Slytherin. No, I think having the ability to use Accio would be great, because I just wouldn't do anything with my life ever. I would just sit there and just Accio soft drink. Accio mac and cheese.
Remote.
Accio Chris Evans? Yes, no?
He's like, where am I? I was on the set of the new Avengers.
Well, you're in the right
now
place
that you're here.
Who the hell are you?
The world is a mysterious place, Chris. But while you're here,
I'm your biggest opinion.
Who's next?
I'll kind of go off of that because, not to steal Jordan's, but I think I would enjoy the practical spells. It'd be nice to not have to do the dishes and just kind of like flick your wand and things start cleaning themselves. But in terms of fun, I think the nerd in me would love to like brew a good potion and like collect all the ingredients and just explore with that, because I love chemistry in the real world. So I think that potion making subject I would enjoy.
I would
I'm
adore.
gonna say this. It was kind of my fault for being last, but Jordan and AJ, you both stole the two things I was gonna say.
I'll think fast.
Oh,
Then all the transformation spells. My character is at, well, he kind of specializes in those spells because I really love them. It's like that easiness to just change everything you have at that moment to something else that serves you that purpose. Like I have like an apple and I don't want to eat it now, then I'll make it into a cup and serve me water. I don't know. That's just so cool for me.
Can I change my answer to the eat slug spell? Because that's entertaining as hell.
yes. This might be a little bit more of a serious question.
Oh god.
Oh no.
It's a question I like to ask my players at the beginning of every campaign, and really what it is what are you hoping to get out of this experience, and what are you hoping from each other, both as players and as myself as GM? That is the question.
Okay.
Did you want to go first this time?
Yeah, because if not, Jordan and AJ are gonna steal my ideas. I just really love good stories, and I just want that a good story and good characters. I always had a somewhat of a problem with role playing. I don't think I'm that good at it. I've seen you guys role play. You're really good. So I will want to improve my role playing potential. And from each other, I mean, we've talked before this, and I already love all of you guys. So just that we keep this, and from our characters, like that Roxana doesn't kill me for an accident, and
You stole
that
my answer.
I don't know what's going on.
and that Levi doesn't end up with one of my brothers, one of Han's brothers. Yeah, that's what I want.
Okay. But your sisters are fair game? Okay.
Yeah, my sisters, go ahead, Levi, but my brothers, no.
I'll
I love how
try
overprotective.
to resist. I'll try to resist.
Can't just sell people like goods. Like humanity works. In terms of like what I'm hoping to get from this campaign, because I'm like this channel actually before I start, I think this is important for the context of my answer, but this channel actually is what got me started into tabletop. Like our friends have always done warm-up questions as a thing and things like that. So like we pretty much role play like how I guess you would role play, and because of that, I'm just looking to get that experience from the man, the myth, the legend himself, and obviously make some lifelong friends. But I think we've all successfully done that. I honestly, I couldn't be happier with like the people I've ended up with, and yeah, it's right. I guess I'm just hoping to get some drama, because I love it when there's drama in role play. So yeah, it'll be great.
You often love some drama.
Always love the drama.
She is drama. She's just walking drama.
I'm walking drama. I'm drama personified.
What I'm looking forward to, or looking for in the campaign, is definitely like just us building our characters, because like this is like a rare opportunity to like start off as like a child and then we're going to end as adults, which not a lot of like I think tabletops do that type of thing. So we're going to actually see like, because usually you get like a little like character development, we're going to actually see these kids grow, and like what we end up with in part 1 may be completely different in part 2. And I'm really looking forward to seeing like these characters like grow up in front of our eyes pretty much. And like, I'm also super into drama, and if I don't get enough of it, I will cause it on my own. So, But also, I think I'm kind of looking to be surprised because in my head, I keep having all these ideas like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. But I've seen Hark GM, and I know like the second we're like, oh yeah, we're going to take care, we're going to do this. All of a sudden, like it's completely different. It's like, oh, I have no clue. I thought I knew what we were doing. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. Yeah, exactly.
In my friend group, I'm always the one that kind of leads and decides what we do. Like I'm the GM in our roleplay group, and so for me, I'm really excited to be the person like that doesn't know everything. Like I cannot wait to like just see the surprises that Hark hasn't planned for us. And I've modeled my roleplay a lot off of Hark, like Jordan said, because it's the only series I've ever watched. So I feel like getting that firsthand experience is just going to help me grow as a role player, but it's going to be a lot of fun as we go. And like Clef said, I think this group is phenomenal. Like we've had so much fun already just in our chats together leading up to this. So I think we already have found some friends, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see what story we can create as a group of friends for our characters. Because while our characters are similar to us, I think that they bring some unique differences that it's going to be fun to laugh at and kind of, I don't know, see their progress as they go along the way too. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in all this.
For me, if I were to answer that question, so it's funny, not funny, but like I love it to hear that you guys are hoping to be able to grow as players from this. For me personally, I am looking forward to learning from you guys to help me grow as a GM. I've been GMing for almost 20 years now, but I'm still not in any shape or form like the perfect GM. I've definitely made a lot of mistakes, and I make major mistakes with every single campaign, and with each mistake I learn from them, and that's how I grow. Every group is different, and because every group is different, they all have their own specific challenges. Every campaign players challenge me in a good way, and so I'm looking forward to continuing to be better, hopefully. Story-wise, I love the Harry Potter universe, as you probably have guessed, and I really wanted an opportunity based on the concept of this story to be able to explore this universe beyond what we've read in the books or in the movies, beyond the UK and the UK culture, beyond the American culture. I wanted to see what this world was like in other countries. I wanted to get more representation and more diversity in the not only the PCs but the NPCs as well. So I'm hoping that this will be a great opportunity for us to not in any shape or form to interfere with, it's not the right word, but interfere with what Rowling made, but more, this is like a fan-made like exercise where we're just kind of creating our own spin-off, I guess, world that is based off of what Rowling did as a foundation and just building off of that, while still having respect for the work and the original work. So, and then as in terms of the group as a whole, my expectations have already been met in terms of having a set of players that I think are really bonding very well with each other. You seem to have very good chemistry. I think that you guys, because you have such a good bond and you've already formed this friendship, that'll not only make this enjoyable to play in, but also enjoyable for viewers to watch. So thank you guys for, bonding and spending so much time with each other leading up to this point. I think that'll be super helpful.
God, wouldn't it be awkward if we all hated each other?
That would be very awkward.
It would be so awkward.
Now that that's been done, I promise I don't want to talk too much of your ears off, but I do want to put people on the spot. So I'm going to start with AJ, because he's very easy to start with. We're putting on the spot. So AJ, while we were going through the audition process, you had the most likes and thumbs up in your videos. You were a viewer favorite, and I don't find that very surprising at all, because from the moment I was watching your audition, even before the interview, I loved your attitude. You had the perfect mindset for the campaign. You were very unabashedly shameless about your love for this world, and you take your fandom very seriously, which I really love. As everybody has also said, you strike me as a very organized person. I think part of that is because of what you do for a living. You pretty much, I see you as the Hermione of this group.
Oh my god,
Like,
so true.
Yeah.
So true.
this party would be such a mess without the Hermione of the group. So
No,
thank you for
Let
that.
me just say that we, as a group, were doing together our character sheets, and we were like, okay,
AJ carried. He carried us through that process.
we're done.
Everything was like, AJ, where do I find this? He's like, well, if you look at page 37, it'll say right there that it's
Yeah.
like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Be like, AJ, if you're awake, Jordan, it's 4 a.m.
The best would be like when he writes us like, hey guys, we need to redo our character sheet. I found something new. It's like, no.
We did it together, and AJ was like, okay, from the beginning, everything, let's do this. We would not have character sheets without my.
Not without him.
Yeah, so I've tried to, when I select players in a group, I try to be very strategic, not only of how I think they're going to do in character, but also out of character. I think you've already proven yourself, AJ, as being such a huge asset. So thank you so much for auditioning, and I know I speak for everyone when I say we really appreciate you being here. So. Yay! I'm gonna move on since he spoke up next. I'm gonna move on to Clef.
Oh.
Clef, when I watched your audition, I was smiling the whole time. I loved your energy. I loved your personality. The whole time I said, if I was a viewer, I would want to watch this guy, like, in this campaign. He's just so naturally, he's so comfortable in front of the camera. I could tell you're into theater, or at least like some sort of performing arts. That was very apparent to me. You have this confidence about you, but I still think you still managed to remain humble throughout it all, which is not very easy to do. And I appreciate someone who is able to, be confident themselves, but not like be super egotistical about it, if that makes sense. Another reason, and this again is just an aspect, it is not at all like the main reason. I like I said, part of this whole exercise, not just for this campaign, but all my previous other campaigns, I try to include, diversity and representation in our group. And I think that having a player like yourself to provide, different aspects and to share with us cultures that we're not as familiar with is really what much of this story is all about. And so I'm really excited to have you in the group. So thank you, Clef.
Thank you, guys.
The baby brother of the group.
Yeah.
Baby brother.
Jordan, you're next.
Oh boy.
So besides being the token girl, we've had token girls, we've had token boys, but beyond that, not just myself, but quite often when I am going through auditions, I show and ask other people for input, like people that were GMs as well. I asked Shay, for example, for his input. I asked Colin for their input while watching, and all of them just really loved. You had such a solid audition. You were very poised. You presented yourself very well, very clearly. You were just a very approachable person, which is something that I look for, is just someone that you feel is genuine. You just had the right attitude. You just seemed like a very delightful person to just know as a person, not just to play. And then the interview happened, and oh my gosh, that role playing with Mikhail. Roxana is such a cool character because you have the ability to be a prankster slash comic relief kind of character, but then there's a scene that happens that lets you see another side of her that makes her very vulnerable, and just seeing that she's layered, and that's not easy to do, and especially during an interview, not during an actual session. So I liked how you were able to balance and switch off between the two sides of your character very seamlessly and naturally. And that's what really impressed me a lot. So I want to see more of all sides of Roxana layer-wise in this campaign, and
So
I think it'll be a good job. Yep.
Oh, thank you. Shucks. Like, I'm all blushing now. Yay. Yay for me.
Jay, Jordan.
So, Brandon. There we go. I thought that before the interviews happened, I thought that, if I was being completely honest, you had one of the strongest auditions.
Yes. Yeah, I just kind of rode that Pokemon bit to the end. That's what got me.
Yeah. Not to toot your horn, but I did honestly think it was one of the strongest ones. And it definitely looked like you put in a lot of effort into it. You put in a lot of your personality, your sense of humor, obviously. And like, definitely you left a very lasting impression, and you left a very memorable audition. And so then your interview happened. So let me talk to... So Brandon and I, we've talked about this privately. So I'm not picking on him, but so do you guys remember back when the results were given out that I said somebody was rescued and saved? Somebody almost didn't make it into this campaign.
I told you guys it was me. I knew it.
I'm shocked because I thought it was
told
me.
you guys. I 100% knew it was me because, like, literally 3 minutes after the interview, I wrote Hark like, that was pretty bad, huh?
he wrote all three of us, I think, as well.
So when I talked to Brandon, his interview was not bad. It was not a bad interview at all. However, after seeing the Brandon from that audition, I went in having very high expectations. The bar was set really high. And after he gave his interview, again, it wasn't a bad interview, but I expected so much more from him. And so I was like, wow, like, it was fine, but I just didn't feel... I felt like he was holding back. And I was like, I wonder why Brandon's holding back. And then you told me you were.
I 100% was. It's because, like, I misinterpreted, like, the tone of this game. I thought we were supposed to play, like, more serious characters, which if anybody's talked to me longer than, like, 10 seconds, you'll know I'm not a really serious person.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm over here like, I don't know what I'm going to do, guys. But, like, there was, like, 73 jokes where I, like, wanted to make a joke, and then I stopped. I was like, no. You're not funny. You're serious. And, like, I think you can actually even see that in it. Like, when we were doing it, I feel like you could see that. Like, I would stop, hesitate, and then, like, yeah, my father's cool, dude.
It was interesting because I went in to your interview thinking, I'm pretty sure Brandon is just going to solidify this. He was already, like, in my mind for being a shoo-in and just being in the campaign by default. And then that happened. I'm like, well, F. Like, what am I going to do? Because, like, I really want him in. But based on everybody else's interview, I was like,
Everybody did so good. Yeah, I was, like,
everybody did so
in that
well.
middle to bottom. Yeah.
So the viewers saved you. Two things saved you. The viewers saved you because you had, I think at the time, the second most likes to AJ. AJ had the most, and you had the second most. I just checked the likes again today. As of today, you both have 57 likes. You're both tied right now. And
Hold on, let me go like it real quick.
and both you and Jordan, when I asked, for those of you who remember, as part of the selection process, all of the finalists were asked to pick who you would like to play with. You and Jordan had the highest number of people who chose you specifically to play with. So the players saved you as well, or the finalists saved you. Because I was seriously like thinking about putting somebody else in, and I was like, I think I'll give Brandon another chance. Because
I've changed my character. I promise you guys will be entertained. I promise.
Levi is like so perfect now. He's so great.
So good.
Everyone will like it better.
But to also turn it around, though, another thing that, credit where's credit is due. Brandon was so solid of a community contributor on the Discord server. I don't think the viewers know this, so I'm just going to say it right now. He offered to help the other auditioners with doing mock interviews before we did interviews with them, just to help them, get comfortable in an interview situation, just to help them practice answering questions and role playing. And so many people on that server were very grateful that Brandon did that, and he didn't have to do that at all. And I told Brandon, I honestly don't believe that Brandon was doing that to give brownie points, to be like, hey, look at me, Hark, I'm doing this, so look at me doing all these awesome things. You should put me in your campaign. I honestly don't think that he did that. I think he just did that because he genuinely wanted to help people. And that, to me, really, really resonated. And, don't make me regret putting you in this campaign, Brandon.
You know what? I think I'm just going to stink now.
Like Roxana, there was a point when I was developing Roxana that I was like, I'm not going to keep her accent. It's bad. And thanks to Brendan. No. Thanks to Brendan, because there was a point where I was about to do it, and if you remember, I burst out laughing because it was so embarrassed. I was like, I'm just going to keep my accent. And then he actually started doing a Russian accent as well to make me feel comfortable. So then I did it, and he's like, look, I really think you should keep the accent. It really just adds to it. So
yes. They were two different characters. They were two completely different characters. Like when she started off doing like her Australian accent, she was more, I don't know, like I felt like more like a sassy girl, like not like a fun, not like Roxy. It didn't seem like how Rox really is. And then so I was like, I think you need to do the Russian accent. She's like, no. And so I was like, all right, so you walk into this room and this man with a Russian accent. And then after I started doing it, she's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do the Russian accent. And so she started it. And I was like, because when she does the Russian accent, like, Roxana comes to life. It's completely different. It's the weirdest thing.
I get possessed, really. Yes. That's what happens.
I have to say too, I did the actual interview, and then I did the mock interview with you, Brandon.
It was like the same day, right?
Yeah, something like the same day, a few days after. And I was so comfortable with you. You were so chill, and I was like, oh god, why didn't I did this in the actual interview? Come on.
I think you said that after the interviews came off. You were like, man, if I was just as relaxed with you as with them, it would have been better. I was like, should have done the mock interview beforehand. That's what it was for.
Yeah. I loved the mock interview, and I have to say, I don't know if obviously none of you saw it, but the mock interview.
No, I recorded it. I'm going to post it right now.
Perfect. The mock interviews that Brandon did were like half as a child and half as an adult, and I love that.
That's super cool.
That because that's
I love that.
The game is going to be in two parts: one when you role play as a kid, and one where you role play as an adult. And how do you think they will change? And that was so incredible.
It was really helpful.
So I think that's all of the questions that I wanted to actually get some role playing done and like get into character and do some stuff. So before we do, I do have to give a disclaimer to everyone who's watching, and I'll give the same disclaimer in the beginning of session 1 as well. So number 1, we are all fans here of Harry Potter, but there's a lot of Harry Potter lore out there, and because there's a lot of Harry Potter lore out there, we might not get everything 100% accurate. So this is our interpretation of the wizarding world. So I'm sure there are a lot of people who are just really hardcore fans who might notice some details that might not be super, super accurate. Try to cut us some slack. We're trying our best. Please cut us some slack. Anything that we don't know, we might end up just improvising and coming up with on the spot, and that's just what part of tabletop gaming is. So we're not trying to offend any of the viewers. We certainly don't want to offend Rowling or her work. We're trying to be as respectful, again, of her work as possible, and just trying to have some fun. That's all we're trying to do at the end of the day. The other thing I want to say from a disclaimer is, because my goal, and maybe other people's goals for this, is to be able to have more representation and to explore more of the different cultures around the world internationally for the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. We might not 100% be completely accurate when it comes to those cultures as well. Every single player I have asked to do as much research as possible, because we all want to represent these cultures, especially if you are watching, are a part of those communities or a part of those cultures. We're trying really hard to be as accurate as possible, but we might not get it all right all the time perfectly. So I am just going to thank you ahead of time for your patience and your understanding. We're not trying to be disrespectful of you or your culture. One very good example for me is that when I role play NPCs who are from different cultures that I'm not as familiar with, one of the ways I differentiate characters so it's easy for players to know who's talking at the time without me constantly saying, so-and-so said this, now so-and-so said this, is accents. I do use accents. A lot of my accents are horrendous. Ask Mikey about my Irish accent. Awful and horrendous. I don't mean any disrespect or offense. I do the best that I can, and even if it's not 100% accurate, the goal is to try to help the players know who's talking when, and I just try to do the very best that I can. So my apologies again ahead of time.
That's all
just
we
wanted
need.
To give those disclaimers.
That's
Yes.
all we need.
Let us start with your origin stories. So, everyone, roll initiative. Albion Mermont. It is August 15th, 1989. You are 7 years old. Now, for most of your life, you have lived in London with your family, but recently your father purchased a new home in Japan because your parents decided that between Hogwarts and Mahotokoro, they felt that the latter, Mahotokoro, would provide you with the better of the two educations, if not the best education internationally. So you have spent the last couple of weeks in Japan, and you're 7 years old, so it's kind of easy for you to just adapt and go with the flow of things, especially as long as you're there with your family. And your mother, Miwa, decides to take you on an outing, and she is dressed in one of the more traditional Japanese witch clothes. It's this very long, flowing kimono, and normally when she goes to work, she's dressed in like a suit of some sort, but today she is dressed in more traditional garb. We'll say that her kimono is kind of icy tealy blue with very beautiful white blossoms down it. She's also going to be dressing you in very traditional Japanese garb as well for young boys. Do you want to describe the outfit that she would have picked for you, Albion?
Yeah, so I think it's probably not quite as bright as hers. I imagine maybe it's still a blue shade, but a darker blue. And it would have a couple different layers. I'm thinking kind of traditional, the kimono layer on top, which has the design kind of like hers has the blossoms on it. His might have some sort of geometric design on it with some other colors in that. And probably a belt as well. And then underneath it would be like some plain colored pants or something like that.
She will take you to a place that you've never been to before, obviously because you haven't been to Japan before this. And, you're just taking in all of the scenery, just taking in all the new sights, the new types of people around here. And it's about an hour's-ish travel by broom. And you eventually reach this large, gorgeous, lush garden. There are vines and flowers cascading down everywhere you look. There is a lot of life, butterflies, and colorful looking insects, some of which you've never seen before because they are not muggle insects, they're more wizarding colorful insects. There's this beautiful pond of running water, and the water kind of goes into these little, I don't know what it's called, but like mini rivers, like just going around with bridges that goes over those riddles. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous sight. And right in the middle is this shrine that it's a semi-transparent shrine that almost looks like it's made of crystal or like some sort of see-through-ish material. There are people all over the place. And there are some people of all ages here, and some with children, most with not. And there is a line of people that are, not a line, I shouldn't say that. There are people that are lining up to sign up, it looks like, to use the shrine, because there are people going in and out of the shrine and are praying to the shrine. And I'm gonna say that Al is just taking in this giant flux of sensory, it's like a sensory overload to you, just seeing all these colors and smelling the sweet smell of the flowers. What is the expression that Albion has, or if you were to look at him, what do you see from this boy?
His head is in the air, and he's just kind of taking it all in with this mouth just wide open, just not sure what to say or do. Would he know what their purpose of being there is today?
Yeah, so please roll for me a knowledge history if you have it. And I would say that when you are calculating your bonus, as in what you're going to add to your 2d6 roll, divide that by half and round down because you're a child, like a really little child. You're not exactly sure why you're here, but you do deduce that it looks like some sort of event or holiday of some sort, and that's really all you can gather. And while you're thinking on this, your mother, Miwa, asks, Albikun is what she calls you, what do you think of this place?
There's so many flowers and plants, and is this where I'm gonna go to school?
She laughs. This is a very beautiful place, but no, where you're going to go to school, Mahokotoro, it will have gardens just like this, beautiful gardens. Though, I have to admit, this happens to be one of my favorite places growing up as a young girl. Do you know why we are here today?
He kind of looks around and he sees the other people, and I think at this point he would take note to the shrine. And you said he knows that they're there for some sort of event, but not sure which one.
It feels like it's some sort of holiday, maybe a festival of some sort. That's what you're thinking?
So he would probably look at the shrine and say, "Are we here to pray to the shrine?"
She takes her hand and she sort of like rubs the back of your head very gently. And she said, "That's a very good guess. Today, Albikun, is Hajigatsuban. Hajigatsuban is the festival to honor our ancestors. My family would come here every year to pray to that shrine and commune with those that we have loved in the past that have left us. It is a tradition that we hold very dearly, and now that we're living here in Japan, I thought since you're getting older, it was important for you to learn our family traditions."
I think he would kind of eyes wide open. Will Grandma and Grandpa be here too?
She smiles warmly. "We shall see. First, we need to sign up for a spot in the shrine." And with that, she takes a hold of your hand and will guide you to the place where people are signing up. So you're just going to get in line. The line actually goes pretty quickly. And as you're waiting, you're in line, you did notice that there are I want to say this mass of delicate looking pink cherry blossom petals that are like floating around in the wind, and they never seem to completely fall to the ground. They're just kind of circling around this entire area on their own. Think Pocahontas's leaves, how like the leaves sort of like swirls around her. So these are like petals, and they're just, they're not moving around too fast. They're sort of like breezing through, and every now and then these petals will fly to a specific family or group and start circling around them, again very much like Pocahontas. And then after the group notices, the petals then fly off to go to a different group. And you notice that when this happens to a specific family, they then make their way to the shrine. And even as a 7-year-old, you're deducing that's how they know they're next in line.
Okay.
So your mother goes in and she, signs her name using a quill on this very traditional Japanese parchment. And then she puts the pen down and she says, "We have some time to wait for a bit. What would you like to see or do while you're here?"
Can we get a closer look at some of the flowers?
"Of course," she says. Which one would you like to go towards? And I will let you describe any flower that you think you would be drawn towards.
So I think at this point he would recognize some of the flowers. I assume there's some similarities between flowers he's seen while in the United Kingdom. But I think his attention would probably be to be drawn to the ones he hasn't seen before, so anything that looks new to him. So I imagine maybe there's this one, probably a tree of sorts, but the flowers are actually growing on a vine that kind of spiral around the tree. And I think he's curious whether or not they're the same plant or if they're different plants, so he wants to get a closer look just to kind of explore that vine in the tree that's surrounding it.
You'll go over to that vine in the tree, and the vine in the tree, there are, on the stems, they've got these like little prickly hairy-like things that you wouldn't be able to see unless you got up close. And the blossoms of the vine, because it is very colorful, it's got a very vibrant red-orange color of blossoms, and the way that they are shaped, it almost looks like the snout of a dragon, are how these blossoms look like. And she says, "Very good choice, Albikun. These are the snapdragon flowers.
Can I take one?
She says, the flowers in this garden are to enjoy from afar. We're not allowed to pick them.
He would just kind of put his head down. I imagine he probably has his own collection of plants he started at home. Even though he's only 7, he probably keeps stuff like dried flower plants and stuff. Just for his reference, I think he's starting to create his love of plants at this age.
That's so
So
wow.
he would just put his head down and kind of listen to her. He wouldn't disobey her.
She notices your disappointment, and then again she rubs your shoulder and says, don't worry, Albikun. Maybe we can talk your father into growing some of these at our new home.
Please, that would be awesome.
Every now and then, you will see the snapdragon flowers open up its snout, and you can see a small stream of fire, like a puff of fire, emerge from them. And it's not like we're not talking like Charizard flame. It's more like a little poof, and then like disappears for a moment. And it's definitely something that's super cool. Eventually, while you're watching this, the cherry blossom petals you see start to move towards your direction. And again, it starts to encircle the two of you. And you can smell the sweet smell of the cherry blossoms and feel the slight breeze against your skin. And as soon as it leaves the two of you, your mother says, I think it is our turn. And she'll hold out her hand for you.
I think he would take it, and probably a little bit unsure of what was going to happen. He probably wouldn't say much. He would just go with her.
You will make your way over to the shrine, and there is a spot that you will be able to both kneel if you'd like. Your mother will get down and kneel, and she will get into a position to start praying. Will you follow suit?
Yeah, he would do whatever she does, unless he's done something like this before. He would probably just follow her lead.
Okay. You wait for about a few minutes, and after a few minutes, roll a perception, hearing, specifically if you have a specialty in hearing. Otherwise, just what your observation. Is it observation? I think is what. You won't notice this right away, but eventually you will hear the light sound of wings beating in the air. And when you turn around, you see that there is this large jade green swarm that you realize are insects, and they are dragonflies. This beautiful swarm of dragonflies. And these dragonflies are dragonflies that are different from Muggle dragonflies. They're a little slightly larger, and their colors are a lot more vibrant. And these dragonflies fly right in front of the arch that you and your mother came through. And she smiles and says, "It's time." And she will turn around and guide you to the dragonflies. The dragonflies, one of the dragonflies sticks around as the swarm passes by, and you watch. She points to one of the dragonflies, and she tells you to get really close, and you can see something riding on the back of the dragonfly, a small passenger. And before your very eyes, this figure grows larger and larger into an ethereal form, and you see a Japanese woman before you, older looking Japanese woman. And as soon as that happens, your mother immediately bows and says, "Oka-san," which you know is the Japanese word for mother. So you can deduce that this is your grandmother, Mio.
Mm-hmm. Is like it's actually her, or is it like a?
It's her ghost.
Okay.
It's her.
Ooh.
It's your grandmother Mio's ghost.
Okay.
Wow.
Would he know what she looks like?
I would say so. I would say that you've seen a photograph of her. They probably have something hanging on the wall at your house, I'm sure. And your mother is actually of the Japanese Buddhist tradition. So a lot of these things that I'm talking about, Hachigatsubun, is of that religion, and many traditionally in Japan, they actually have shrines to their ancestors, similar to the shrines that I think in Mexico, if you ever watched
Coco,
Coco, they do a very similar thing too.
El Día de los Muertos.
Thank you. I think in your house, you actually do have something similar to that, where they keep the photograph of your grandmother.
Okay. I think he might be a little bit, I don't think scared, but unsure. So I think he would kind of like get a little closer to his mom, and he wouldn't break eye contact with his grandmother. And I still think he wouldn't say much. He would kind of wait to see if his mom says anything, or wait to see what his grandmother does.
Your grandmother will look around, and she will of course nod to your mother, but then she will see you, and she says, "Is that little Albie-kun?" And your mother says, "Yes, Albie-kun, this is your grandmother. Go and give your respect." And when she says that, she means she wants you to go up towards her and bow.
Okay. So I think at this point, with his mom's assurance, he would take a hesitant step forward and give a very respectful bow to his grandmother. I think, like, is she within reach of him?
I would say so.
I think he might, after he bows, even kind of just like put his hand out a little bit. He wouldn't touch her because he wouldn't be sure if he's allowed, but he would just kind of place his hand up, just to see, like, I don't know what happens, or if he feels any sort of like energy or heat or anything.
Yeah, your grandmother will smile a little bit, and if you put your hand up, she actually will move her hand towards yours, the ghostly hand, and you don't feel anything, except you feel a little bit of cold air as her hand sort of like passes through you a little bit. And she says, "Albie-kun, do not be afraid. I came here to see you. I am very happy to see your family back here in Japan, where your mother grew up. I've heard that you are growing up to be a very smart boy."
I get to go to Mahotokoro this year.
Mahokotoro, it's a wonderful school. I was told by your mother that you enjoy gardening with her at your home.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like plants?
A lot. Mom said we might even be able to get some of the snapdragons we saw today.
She says, "Snapdragons, that is one of my personal favorites." She looks around the garden and she says, "Do you like all of these flowers, Albie-kun?"
He kind of takes another look around and just kind of nods his head excitedly. At this point, he might even, now that he's starting to warm up to her a little bit and he's not quite as nervous, he would probably look at her and be like, "Is grandfather coming too?"
Not this year, I'm afraid, but he might be able to next year. Albie-kun, what you see here is here because we have been very careful to preserve it. Plants are very valuable resource. They deserve our respect. They give us so much. They provide us with food to eat. They provide us with clean air to breathe. They were here long before any of us, long before any creature walked on this land. They are our support, our foundation, and we must protect them. Many of the plants and herbs that we use for generations have been destroyed because Muggles have a very difficult time taking care of this world. Many have died off, and because Muggles don't seem to have as much respect for their plants and resources, it is important for us, witches and wizards, to preserve them here, away from their reach.
Mom promised me that we're gonna have the biggest garden in all of Japan.
She said, I think that would be a very beautiful sight to see. Maybe your grandpa will be able to see that garden next year.
You guys can come fly in on the dragonflies.
Yes, the dragonfly is very sacred to our people. They are symbols of good fortune, but they are also guides for our ancestors. She says, I ask you as you are going through your studies, Albikun, remember who you are. Remember where you come from. You are but a budding plant ready to flourish, and I know that all of us watching cannot wait to see your full potential when you grow up and bloom.
I think he gives a very big smile at the metaphor for the plant.
And you guys will converse a little for a few more. She'll actually converse and catch up a little bit with your mother, but eventually the time will pass and for your grandmother to go, and she will give each of you a warm smile since she can't hug you, and she will shrink back down onto the back of the dragonfly and will fly off. And we'll end the scene there.
That was so beautiful.
Oh god, so cute.
That was the best.
So cute.
Baby Owl is like live.
Baby owl. Yeah, baby owl.
Baby Al's the best.
Out of character, yes, Hachigatsuban is a thing, and it is a mythology in Japan that dragonflies do carry on their backs ancestors from the past. And so I applied that to the scene,
Oh,
which I thought
yeah.
would be very beautiful and very fitting
That
for
was very
So
great.
beautiful.
That was awesome.
Albion. And I think I know why AJ thinks of that was very significant, but we'll get to that later.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought you did that on purpose. Like, I didn't realize
yeah.
it was an actual thing. So
No, yeah, I did that on purpose. So maybe that'll be significant later.
all the points are connected.
Bah, bah, bah.
Let's start theorizing.